Today's podcast is sponsored by King's Cleaning Solutions. King's offers carpet cleaning, tile and grout cleaning, upholstery cleaning, natural stone maintenance, area rug cleaning, and hardwood floor cleaning in Kokomo and its surrounding areas. Contact them today for all of your cleaning needs.
Welcome to another episode of The Lamp. I'm Pat Munsey, publisher of the Kokomo Lantern. This is part of our ongoing political coverage leading up to the November 5th election. And today I have with me Tony Walker, who is running for Howard County Commissioner in the 2nd District. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Hey, look at that. I actually remembered something for a change. Thank you so much, Mr. Walker, for joining us. Mr. Walker is a Democrat on the ballot this fall. You'll see him. The commissioner's race is pretty far down the list, but please make it all the way down because there's even more beyond that you really need to get involved with. But today we're going to talk about Tony Walker, and tell me a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and what you're hoping to accomplish here.
So I am originally from Lafayette, so I traveled here for a group of friends in a relationship. So I've been here for about 8 years, something like that. Okay. And then I decided that I wanted to go to Ohio for take a job for a better opportunity, for better pay. So I moved to Ohio, Sunbury, Ohio to be specific, for about a year. And then I moved back, decided that I wanted to start something of my own. And so I started a restaurant called Yoke Social Table. That's,
sure.
I think, relatively known.
Yeah, well, tell me a little bit about Yoke Social. This doesn't have to just be about politics.
Yeah.
We can do a little plug here because I eat at Yoke Social Table from time to time. I really enjoy it.
Seen you
so
there.
have you? Well, see, there you go. How
so
about that?
For the kind of who Alvin and Alvin is my business partner and me are, I guess our values is how can we create something that can benefit the community. We see a lot of we see a lot of unhealthy options. We see a lot of big corporates that come in and not really take care of the community. So we wanted to be something that was unique, something that people can kind of go to, have something that is healthier. We're not saying that we're the healthiest option, but healthier than what you will eat. And then how can we have a safe space where everyone can kind of come and have a conversation without the need to pull out your phone or have your laptop there. But it's just more about talking with each other, just being present. So I think we've done a really great job with that. And then after a year, I promised myself that I would go back to school. And so I'm currently at Marion. My end goal will be to be a doctor, so either a family or emergency physician, or I did a clinical rotation as an orthopedic surgeon intern, and I love that. So I think maybe orthopedics would be probably my thing.
Okay. Well,
so aside from being a community leader.
Well, one of the topics that is prescient here in Howard County has to do with food deserts. And since you are involved in healthy choices and alternatives through Yoke Social Table, tell me how you view the issue of food deserts and how we should address them from a Howard County Commissioner standpoint.
So I feel like we have a lot of conversations, or I hear a lot about the community kind of addressing, or some of our community leaders addressing the food desert, but when you go out in the community, you don't really see that. I think for a county commissioner, our job, or really as a public servant, is to address the needs of our community. And there are several, I guess, especially with like Kokomo, we have a lot of farmland, we have a lot of farmers that could really benefit with programs that you could help with, kind of giving them some type of incentives to, I don't know how to really explain this, but giving them a way for you to be able to feed the community. And I feel like just being where I'm at, or being in the restaurant hospitality field, we see a lot of food waste that happens, and a lot of farmers, when they can't sell it or they can't make it, or I need to restart on that one because I kind of went a little off base there.
Keep going, you're fine.
So yeah, you know, as a county commissioner, I think if we partner with our farmers, local farmers, really partner with our local restaurants to be able to figure out how we can close that gap with the supply chain to be able to make food affordable is an option. And then I feel like being able to provide, or not provide, but be able to get accepted or to do grant programs to be able to help offset some of that cost. We'll be able to,
Okay.
I don't know, help.
So one of the things that contributes to a food desert is a lack of transportation.
Yeah.
And while the city has a bus system that runs a lot of hours,
Yeah.
there are some gaps there. And then once you get outside the city limits, transportation becomes a real problem.
Yeah.
As a commissioner, how would you address transportation to help solve the food desert issue?
You know what? I actually rode the Charlie, and I went and I talked to the mayor about this, because if anybody have rode the Charlie before, it's a very central, like they just have their central route. It's like we keep people in a certain area, and then we're just like, that's just where we're just going to keep them there, which is just around downtown. And then they say that you know, the Charlie goes all around you know, Kokomo, but we know that's not true. So that is one of the things that I have talked about, made a post about, discussed with community members on, even for like the elderly, of expanding our Charlie system, and then also making sure that we have fresh groceries in mind, and a way for them to get there, right? So I think if we can figure out a way, we need to figure out a way to expand our hours of operations, to make bus routes more spread out throughout the community, and then 3, applying for more grants to be able to get bigger buses, and then also investing in technology would be able to help people, 1, get access to healthier food options, 2, give them a way to not just have to go to Walmart just because it's closer. Because growing up, I rode, but I'm from Lafayette. I rode the bus to go and to go get food. But when we didn't have access to a bus route at one point in time, the only way that we were able to get food was to go to Dollar General. And Dollar General now just seems to be like on every block. But we already know there's nothing wrong with Dollar General, but we know that they're not healthy. And so one of the things that Lafayette really did a great job at, which I'm a firm believer with, even being a college student, is learning from those that have already done it, and then figuring out the things that they either, 1, did wrong, that you can improve on, or 2, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And so if we're able to figure out how they were able to do it, and then apply that to Howard County, that in itself I feel like would solve a lot of the food deserts that we see, and then making sure that we can provide support to our local businesses that, like myself or that Radish Cafe, and then 2, being able to partner with our farmers, because we have we have a lot of farmland here, that we can then partner with them. That would in itself kind of help with that issue.
Okay. So when we talk about farmland, one of the major issues that's facing our farmers in Howard County is the advent of green or alternative energy, specifically solar, in eastern Howard County. There's a very large solar farm that is currently planned for eastern Howard County. There seems to be a lot of people who live around it who aren't exactly happy about that situation. And it seems to have caused a conflict then between property owners on whose rights take precedence. So where do you feel solar fits into Howard County? Do you feel like Howard County is handling that issue properly? And if surrounding neighbors have a concern with the solar farm, does the county have a responsibility to represent their interests over those of the farmers that are having the solar panels on them?
See, I feel like this subject is an important one. I've heard it. It's a very touchy subject. I feel like as a county commissioner, it is our job to respect the landowners, right? But we also have to figure out a way to also do what's right for the world, like in which we live in, like the environment, and just doing our part to make the world, one, cleaner, safer, more efficient, right? And so I think the things that we have kind of done wrong with this subject is, one, education, two, really looking at what people are saying, hearing what they're saying, and then figuring out a solution that we all can win on. Because when even in the same room with some of these meetings with the county commissioners and with the farmers or the people that own these lands, I feel like both sides are not being heard, both as a county commissioner and then two as just a citizen, a landowner. But I feel like we need to figure out a way to make the world a cleaner place. Is that a solar system? Is that a windmill? I don't know, but there's other options out there that I feel like we can be looking at more than maybe just focusing on one thing. So, I mean that's it. I think opening up the doors for communication, really educating ourselves on the cause and effect of it. And again, I've heard it where people are saying, well, it's harmful, or this and that. So it's like, how can we meet in the middle, if that makes sense? What ways or what options other than the windmill that might work? And that's where I'm at on that.
Staying on the environmental topic, one of the issues that we have in front of us now that is probably not overly well known, but will be very well known in short order, and that is the water quality in Howard County. We've had problems for decades with failing septic systems and complete lack of septic systems in some rural areas. When this first came to light in the late 1990s and they were doing water tests, showed that the Kokomo Creek, which runs through the southern part of town, had more parts per million than 1 million of fecal waste in the water stream. So if they say, how many parts per million? Well, it's 2 million parts per million. That's a lot of contamination. And so we started putting together water treatment facilities, but that isn't covering anywhere close to the problem. So knowing that we have this problem, how would you address water quality, and how would you raise the money to remediate it, which could be tens of millions of dollars?
That's a great question. So for me, I did and I think before we started this podcast, I was kind of telling you how at Marion University biology department we're going in and we're kind of looking at the quality. Now, mind you, this is in Indianapolis, but this is kind of everywhere. I think part of our problem that kind of current leaders have is the inability of looking in the future, planning for the future. And so for me, it's like we need to do more research on finding ways that we can help now without having to spend all that money right now, because obviously we don't have it, right? So look at ways that we can improve it. The other piece of that is doing research on an effective system that we could be putting in, because I feel like even with, and correct me if I'm wrong, we had this issue several years ago about like some part of the city, and then they, with sewage and with is it runover or waste runover or something like that. Something happened a couple of years ago, and then we ended up fixing it. But I feel like we didn't look at the bigger picture as we grow in Howard County. How will that affect us? Is our current system that we're putting in place now would be able to support 10 to 15,000 or 20,000 people? So definitely looking at different options, educating ourselves on what we can do now to be able to help with it. And then as far as raising money for that, is there are several, which I feel like Howard County kind of lacks in, is applying for grants and putting a great argument as to why we are better, or not better, but why we're the option for those grants, if that makes sense. Because there's a lot of federal programs that we can be applying for. I just feel like we're not applying for them, or we're not looking for them, because I think this is, that'd be kind of mean, but we just don't have the ability, I feel like, the current leadership to be able to look up beyond a week or 2 weeks or a year from now. So.
All right. Okay. I've hit the topics that I wanted to hit, selfishly. Is there a topic that is foremost in your mind or on your campaign platform that you're really passionate about?
Yes. Now I can say this with ease now.
Okay.
So
all the rest of it was tough.
I can say with ease now. So all those are really, really great topics. When people look at me, and you hear this conversation about like Democrats or Republicans so much, and I use the word new generation versus old generation of politics, where my generation, and I'm not saying that my father's generation or any other generation is not about that, but my generation specifically is just all about how can we all work together so that 10, 15, 20 years from now, we too can be able to have what you guys have, the nice house, a decent car, $100, not even $100, $5, and even when I was in high school, would get me a bag of hot Cheetos, a Gatorade, some gum, and now $5 get me just a bag of hot Cheetos and maybe a gum, or a pop maybe. So $5, $10, $20 doesn't get you far, and my generation of leadership isn't focused on, which I hear so much, the national politics. We're more of what can we do locally to support each other. Because when I go to door, I hear people talk about, well, Biden and Kamala Harris and Trump, and we're not fighting that fight. I'm more worried about what can I do locally, right? How can I support small business owners? How can I be a leader where corporates, large giants, tech giants want to come here, but also be responsible enough to when those tech giants or those corporate giants were to leave us, we can still be sustainable. How can we make sure that we have lots of opportunities for everyone, rather than people having to go to Indianapolis to get an experience, right? And I feel like with our current leadership right now, just even listening and even having a debate about it, is we're just only focused on one or two things. And I feel like as a leader, you can't just be focused on one or two things. You have to be focused on multiple things at once. I heard a lot of people talk about part-timer, that this is a part-time job. Well, if you want it to be a part-time job, then I would ask you to step down and I will make it a full-time job. Because I think right now, what we need to do and what we need to understand is now more than ever is a time to be fast. Always learning, always evolving, trying to find solutions, not just 1 or 2 steps from now, but 5, 10 steps, and always be ahead of it. Just like the topic with the gel, we were talking about that, which I think we didn't do. We did a poor job kind of debating about that last night. But if we were really being leaders, and that goes from the sheriff's department to the county commissioner, supporting the sheriff's department on figuring out, okay, what can we do now to be able to make sure that from 4 years or 8 years from now, and those are just election cycles, that we don't have an overcrowding issue. How can, as a county commissioner, you work with the court system to make sure that the backlogs are being taken care of? How can we all work together? And I've heard that word a lot last night from the current, I don't want to say the Republican side, but just the current leadership of, well, we all work well together, but I don't see anyone that works well but also pushes each other to think outside of the box, right? And that's, I think, that's the type of leader I would be, is I want to be able to work with, whether you're Republican or an independent or another Democrat, I want to be able to work with all of them. But I want to be the type of leader that I want you to challenge me as I'm going to challenge you. And I want us to be forward thinking. That doesn't mean to be an extremist, as sometimes I walk the doors and people go, oh no, the Democrats, they just want to change the world. And we do, but you got to do it smart. You know, I heard balance the budget, for an example, as one of them. They didn't balance it. I wasn't part of that, so I can't say that I didn't do anything. You're right. But for me, there is ways that we can be fiscally responsible, but also still take care of our community. And I feel like you didn't hear that. You didn't hear that 4 years ago. You didn't hear that this year. And I'm quite frankly, I'm over it. For me, I just want to be able to afford, back to the $5 thing, want to be able to afford food. I want to be able to go to college and not have to worry about, how am I going to get my next, when my next paycheck going to be? I want to not see my neighbors struggle. I want to be able to see my parents not have to go back to a factory job because that's the only thing in Kokomo that's available. I want my friends to be able to stay here in Kokomo, not have to go to Indianapolis. I want Kokomo to be a destination where everyone feels, welcomed, more than this idea that if we're inviting to people, and I see those comments, if we're inviting to those people, higher crime rate's going to happen. If we invite those people, then that's why we're crumbling as a county. That's not why we're crumbling, because we don't have the population supported to be able to support a new jail or to support our law enforcement, which is how we get our taxes, right? So it brings more strain on the people, and I don't think that the current leadership is really saying that. They're not challenging themselves to be able to go, hey, we need to grow as a community, or we need to keep our young youths here, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at with that. So I am new, I am inexperienced, I am young. We do ramble, we do go off topic sometimes, but we are super passionate. I am a person that loves his community. I want to stay here, and I don't want to go elsewhere because that's where the money's at.
All right. Well, there you go. You heard quite a bit. Hopefully you heard something that you like. You can find Tony Walker's name on the ballot on November 5th for Howard County Commissioner District 2. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure as always, and thank you all for tuning in and listening, and hopefully this is helping educate you so that when you go to the ballot box on November 5th, you have a better idea of why you're voting for the person that you're putting that check next to. So we'll do more of these here. You'll be able to watch them all the way up to the election and really beyond, because I'm not taking them down. But in the meantime, while you're watching all those, please be good to each other.